Hi there, this is Miss Caitlin from Vivo Kids Art Academy and welcome to another December Daily Draw. Today is day 26 and we are going to be making a picture of a cabin today. So we're going to learn a little bit about one-point perspective in order to create this cabin. Now you can have lots of fun decorating it how you like. I'm going to show you just some basic instructions on how to create this cabin in general. So let's go ahead and start with a piece of paper, blank. Now, I did watercolor on this project today, or rather on this daily draw today. So if you want to use a piece of watercolor paper or a paper that might be made from mixed media or is a little heavier, I recommend it, but you don't have to. Now, I also want you to draw with a pencil and have an eraser on hand because this one might be a little tricky. Perspective is one of those things, it's very technical, but it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm going to draw with Sharpie so you can see. Let's start with our number at the top. So go ahead and draw a box at the top here for day 26. Now at any point during today's daily draw, if you need to pause the video just to, kind of soak in whatever knowledge that you've learned, or in order to just kind of look at the picture that's on the screen a little longer, please feel free to do so. If it helps you go at your own pace, you can absolutely pause the video. You don't have to rush it. Now you can make your numbers fancy if you like. I'm going to stick with this today. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to draw a horizon line, and just so that we can kind of understand where things are going to go. So for our horizon line, I want you to take your pencil and you're going to draw one right through here, straight across. And then what you're going to do is you're going to draw a point. Now this is going to be our vanishing point. We want it to be over here. So a horizon line is just the line where the sky and the ground meet. If you look out towards the ocean and you see like the line right where the ocean starts or stops and the sky begins, same thing as if you were going out on a road trip and you look out towards the horizon, you see where the ground stops and the sky begins, that's the horizon line. This is a vanishing point. So as things get closer to the vanishing point, they get smaller and disappear. Things that are far away from the vanishing point, as in they're close to us, are big. The best way I can describe this is if you are going on a road trip, as you look out down the road, maybe, as your parents are driving, you'll see that the road gets so small, it disappears in the distance. But as you're driving where you are, the road looks pretty big. So that's one point perspective at play. Now for our cabin, what we're going to do is we are going to draw a square. Now part of the square is going to go through our horizon line just a little bit. So go ahead and take your pencil, and what I want us to do is draw a square really big over here on the left side of our paper. Again, it's okay if it goes over our horizon line right now. I'll show you where to erase all of that in just a moment. All right, so there's our square. Now, what I want you to do is go ahead and take your pencil, or excuse me, your eraser, and I want you to erase that part of the horizon line now. I don't have an eraser, so I'm just going to use a marker, a red one, to show you which lines you're going to erase. Okay, so with one point perspective, now we need to go ahead and turn this into a cube. So what I want us to do is I want you to go to this corner right here and put a little dot, and this corner right here and put a little dot. With one point perspective, we can see the front of an object. So this is the front of our cube. What I want you to do is go to the corner here and connect this corner to the vanishing point. What we're making are called converging lines. They converge, they meet at the vanishing point. Now what you're going to do is you are going to draw a vertical line, a line that's straight up and down over here somewhere to show the side of our house or of our cabin. This is going to be the side of the cube. So it can be really tempting to draw a diagonal or a slanted line, so I really want you to try and get this line as straight as possible. So I'm going to go right here on the top of this converging line, and I'm going to draw a straight line down, just like that. After you draw that line, take your eraser and you can erase this part of the horizon line. And we want to probably keep our converging lines around until the very end. So now we have the cube. So if I kind of remove that right here, you can see a cube started to form. Now we need to draw parts of the cabin. So we need a roof for our cabin. I want you to take your pencil and you're going to draw a triangle on the top. And you want it to connect to only the front part of our cube here, right here. Okay, so now that you have that, this is gonna help us start kind of forming the roof. Now I'm gonna make this roof slightly more detailed. I do wanna see kind of like a border around it. So now what I want you to do is go towards the top here, and we're gonna draw another triangle. It's okay if some of this goes over those lines. Go ahead and curve this line because we're kind of done with that part right now. But now we need the top of our roof, and this is also a line that's going to converge here with the vanishing point. So take your pencil, you're going to draw a diagonal line that goes all the way over and meets the vanishing point. Now the roof also has to end. There's no way we can have a roof this long. So now you're going to draw a slanted line. Now the tricky part here is that you want this slanted line to be exactly the same as this one we made here, but we just want it to be a little bit over this way. So take your pencil and draw a slanted line. Now you can decide if you want the bottom of the roof to be flat. On our picture today, I made the roof with sort of like these wavy ends. So you can decide how you want it to end on the side. It might be kind of hard to see now because there's a lot of lines in the way, but take your eraser and erase any pencil lines from this part that you no longer need. So there's a bunch of lines inside here that I don't need anymore. And now I actually don't need those converging lines because I have the main parts of my cabin all done. So you can erase these lines. Now from here, you can choose how you would like to decorate your cabin. I'll show you a couple of things that I'm going to do, but you can take this time to really get creative with what you want the cabin to look like. Just know that if you are going to put any decorations or any windows, any details on this side of the cabin, right here, this is where perspective is happening. It's kind of being dragged out a little bit. You're going to have to draw a window that's in perspective. Well, how do you do that? Well, first, maybe you need to decide where you want your window to go. I want my window to go right here. So I would draw first a vertical line, and the top and the bottom of the window have to be in perspective. Those lines have to match the ones going towards the vanishing point. So if it's helpful for you, you could start from the top or the bottom, and you could draw a line, a diagonal line, over to the vanishing point. So that way you can make sure that it's in perspective. I already know how this is going to go for me, so I need to make these lines match. They're going to pull in a little bit. And then I'm going to draw a line down. Then you can draw the window on the inside. You can add more details, like you can add a little windowsill, you can add a porch, of course you can add a door. You need a door, how are you going to get into the cabin otherwise? You can add decorations to the door, like maybe it's made out of wood. You can add windows to the front of the cabin or even to the top. You can even add a chimney. So have some fun, get creative, pause the video right here, and then you can continue after you've added in lots of details. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and add two more things. I want there to be a path and a chimney. Now for the chimney, I'm gonna put it up here. Make sure that that part's in perspective. I can have, like maybe there's smoke coming out of it because somebody's home. I'm gonna add a window up here. Now I'm gonna show you a drawing of my completed cabin with even more details that maybe you did in your piece, but For me, just to make sure that we keep this video nice and short, I'm going to show you what it looks like, all colored on the outside. So I went in with a blue marker and outlined all of my details in my drawing of all the things that I wanted to add. I added like this little awning and I added a porch. I also added some little beams here and some bushes and a path. So you can feel free, if this inspires you, to add those things in your picture. Again, you can pause the video here, but now we're going to move on into some coloring. Now, my picture is done in blue marker, and I'm going to use some watercolor to help bring out the color. You can also add in texture with another marker or a Sharpie or some kind of pen. So I'm going to go ahead and use a blue pen to add in some texture. Now, this blue pen was not specifically made to be an art supply. It's just one that I have at home. So maybe you have a blue pen that's somewhere at home today, but I'm just going to use this one. Now, for this pen, it's not water soluble, so it's not going to blend away when I put watercolor on top of this later. Now, what I'm going to do with this blue pen is I'm going to just add some short vertical lines onto the sides of the house, or like the walls of the house, just to give it some interesting texture. Now, it is a-okay if you don't have a pen for this part. You could do this with, again, marker. It's okay if it will blend away a little bit with watercolor. It might look interesting. You can also do some really detailed shading with just these vertical hatched lines. And that also can look pretty cool. And I know this is very small and very detailed, so it might be a little tricky to see. But in real life, you can try this on your own picture and see how it looks. Now, I'm not scribbling. I am doing vertical up and down strokes. I'm just able to do it kind of fast because I have a lot of practice at it. But maybe for you, you might want to take your time with this part. You can also add some hatch lines if you added a porch. For me, I want all of my lines to kind of go in the direction of the object that I'm shading in. So this is at an angle. So I did all of my hatch lines at an angle. You could even do some cross hatching. So that's hatching, but doing it in the opposite direction in the same spot. You can even use pens or small fine-tipped markers to add in like fine detail, like the texture of wood that the door might be made out of. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to go in with my watercolor. Now, the marker that I did use, it is water soluble. So that means when I go in, I'm going to have to be pretty careful with how much water is on my brush. I only want the brush to be a little bit wet, not even dripping wet. So there's hardly any water on my brush. And what I'm going to do is I am going to just take the blue color from my marker first and kind of blend that in. So I'm kind of picking up from my line work that I did. But if that's still not dark enough, I'm going to take the watercolors, which is why I have them here. I'm going to pick up some blue and add it in very carefully. Because again, the marker I used is water soluble, which means it blends away with water. I don't want all of my line work to just go away. I just want it to work with me in the piece. So I might add more towards areas where there might need to be shadow. You can see I'm using a very small, thin detail brush. To fill everything in. Now I'm using this dark blue watercolor first on areas like the walls of the house. These bars that are on the door that are kind of keeping the wood in place. And then in other areas, I might use a lighter blue just so that it stands out and I have some contrast in my piece with the colors. If I did all the same blue, I can absolutely do that, but just to make it easy on you guys today, we'll do different blues. It's still going to have a monochromatic look. That just means we're using all the same color to add shading and fill things in. Now I definitely want this porch area to be very much dark because it's all covered up. Not much light is hitting it. I'm also just going to use the blue marker that's already present on these kinds of support beams. Same thing for these little outlines here and here. I just have I don't have any watercolor on my brush. I'm literally just using the water on the brush from the bucket, just gently kind of petting the watercolor, or the water and the marker around. Now, if you do start to lose any details like I did just there, wait for the piece to dry and then you can just re-outline it. So be really careful with how much water you have on your brush. Again, you want hardly any to just help move that color around. So again, just taking the brush, being careful, pulling some of that color down. And you want this to be pretty loose. You don't want to go and try and make this, like a whole project. It's just a daily draw. So feel free to just, maybe get in there with some watercolor. It doesn't have to be anything too serious. You can see I'm just having fun with my strokes and petting that in. And then for the path, I'm going to do some horizontal strokes. And as I get closer to me, I want those horizontal strokes to be bigger. Because again, as things get closer to us, they're going to appear bigger and lower on the paper. All right, for the door and the window, I'm going to pick up a little bit of my different colored blue. This is a turquoise color, or more of an aqua color. I'm just going to gently pass that over the windows and the door. So again, wait for this whole thing to dry before you go back in and redefine any outlines. But when you're done, it will look something kind of like our example. Now you can also use different kinds of blue marker if you want to go back in and redefine them, but this is the kind of look we're going for. So I hope you have a lot of fun. You can, of course, take as much time as you need on this daily draw. It is a little bit more tricky than the ones we have done in the past because of the perspective, but show us what you've created. So make a post on our Febo Village Facebook page and show us what you created for your cabin. I hope you have a lot of fun, and we'll see you again tomorrow for another December daily draw. Bye for now, everyone.